Good morning. Hope everybody's having a great day, week, month, year, whenever you happen to be checking in with this, whether you're watching live or you're watching on replay. Topic we're going to get into here today is one that yesterday I was asking people. I had mentioned this in passing in yesterday's stream, and people said that they want to hear me talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to explain the whole concept of the race hustler. What is a race hustler? Who are they? Who are the race hustlers? We're going to point them out. What do they do? What makes them a race hustler? What is their hustle? How is it working either for or against you? And what can you do about it? We're going to go through all of that here today, talking about the race hustler. All right. And first, before we even do that, before we even get into any of this, let me give you all a public service announcement. Good morning, everybody who is checking in over on TikTok. Shout out to everybody who is checking in. Let me see if we got a over on Instagram. I'm getting a poor connection. I don't think Instagram ever connected. Let me start Instagram over, and we'll try again on IG. IG didn't connect. So give me 1 second while I'm restarting Instagram here, because for some reason Instagram did not connect the way that it's supposed to. So while I'm doing this, again, I'm going to give you all a public service announcement about this very topic, because not everybody's going to be happy about this topic, because I'm going to call out either directly or indirectly maybe some people that some of y'all are fans of. But that's okay, because my only affiliation, I want to make sure all you understand, my only affiliation is to what's real and to the truth and to being as objective as humanly possible. That's my only affiliation. I have no affiliation to any individual platforms, people, corporations, etc. I am not bought. I am not paid for by any platforms. And I say whatever it is that I want to say. This is one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur. So some people are uncomfortable with social topics. Some people are uncomfortable with race topics. I understand this. And I'm not asking you to say anything. I'm going to do all the talking. If you want to talk, you can leave a comment. I'll adjust the comments at the end. But again, I don't think, not again, but for the first time, let me say this. I don't think race is the most important factor about all of us as people. Some of you listen to this, you may identify as a minority. Some of you may identify as white. Some of you identify as something other than either of those. And I think the most important thing about all of us is your game. What do you bring to the table? How do you deliver? Are you actually making a difference and or an impact with the people who you are called to serve? That's the most important thing about you as far as I'm concerned. That's the reason why my brand is called Work on My Game. At the same time, there are people with loud voices who have made this a topic that needs to be addressed. And that's the reason why I'm going to address it here today. And there are platforms out there who have amplified this issue to where we got to the point that where we are here now. And over here in the Work on Your Game world, especially with me personally, we don't ignore the elephants in the room. So there's an elephant in the room. We're not going to act like there's not an elephant in the room. We're going to address that here today. And if you've been following me for the last, I know a bunch of you just started following me over the last week or two. And even just then, even in just that short period of time, I think you all can understand my approach, my pattern is that we address things and we'll talk about them again as objectively as we can, as logically as we can, as dispassionately as we can, so we can address what's actually happening. Doesn't mean you're going to agree with my positions or my perspectives or my conclusions, but I am going to make sure it's out on the table. And if you have something to say, put it in the comments. You can say what you want to say. So that's why this show and this brand is called Work on Your Game. The key thing is your game, because if you have game, then it doesn't matter if somebody likes you or dislikes you. It doesn't matter if somebody's a fan of yours or not a fan of yours, whether they agree with your opinion or they disagree with your opinion, because your game will overcome all of that, because your game is going to help get you out there, get you seen, get you known, and help you produce, again, the ROI that you want to produce for yourself. Okay, so because of all of this, even though I want game to be the major factor, race has become a big part of the game. I didn't make it this way. If it was up to me, if I was king of the universe, it would not be this way. But there are people who have made it this way, so we can't sit here and act like it's not a thing. Okay, that's the part that I want you to get to help you understand why I'm talking about this. Because if it was up to me, we would just be talking about game. We would talk about things like mindset and performance and delivering and discipline and confidence and doing your business and serving the people who you want to serve and how you put your business out there. We'd be talking about that all the time, and I've never had to talk about stuff like this or stuff like I've been talking about, like Trump and Kamala and politics. And I wouldn't be talking about any of that if people didn't pay so much attention to it. But because people pay so much attention to it, I have to meet. Sometimes I got to meet people where they at, and sometimes I get you to meet me where I'm at. So right now is one of those times I want to meet you where you're at. Okay, this is the way that it is now. Don't hate the players, hate the game. All right, so I'm playing. This is part of the game. It's my job to address this, and I've appointed myself as the person who gives you all of the game. The reason my brand is called Work on Your Game, because I want to address all of the game, not just the parts of the game that are convenient for you to think about or talk about or listen to, but every part of the game, because there are certain aspects of the game that you may not like, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. Everybody understand this? So, for example, I was running outside today. I ran how far did I run today? I ran like 6 miles this morning. And after I get done running, any of you who plays a sport, you probably experience this as well. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You usually have the ice on you. So either you're getting an ice bath. I don't have an ice bath, but I put ice on me. So I have a bucket where I get ice, you stand in the ice bucket. Then you have ice on your calf muscles, ice on my knees, ice on my hamstrings. And that ice is not, doesn't feel good. It's a little bit uncomfortable, and you can call it an inconvenience, but it is part of the game. And we can't act like that's not part of the game. So we got to address everything. And I'm going to give you all the tools for dealing with everything that is happening. And this is something that's happening. That's why we're getting into it. Everybody understand that? So that's why I have this here. And again, all comments are welcome. Don't talk crazy in the comments, but you can leave whatever comment that you want. And I can do whatever I want in response. So all that said, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 35 books, done 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game. Our job here is to help you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce results. That's the game that we're in. And again, part of your performance, consistency, and results may be affected by these race hustlers. And that's why we're going to talk about race hustlers here today. I got 4 specific points about race hustlers, who they are, what they do, why they do it, how it works, and what you can do about it. Going to be covered in all these points. Let's get into it. Point number 1. First of all, who are these race hustlers? What do they do? And why do they exist? If I had to put a race hustler into one phrase and explain what a race hustler does and who they are and all of that, here's what I would tell you. Race hustlers are usually black people whose main business is telling other black people and white people, and I'm going to tell you how white people fit into this as well. But these race hustlers are usually black folks who decide that they're going to build a business around telling other black people that all of their problems are because of race and racism. That's a race hustler. So if I had to give you what a race hustler is in a very simple phrase, there it is. There's a black person who decides they're going to build a business and a career, and business and career is important because if you're just doing it for fun, then you're not really a race hustler. A race hustler is people who do it and there's a business angle to it, meaning they're making money from doing this somehow, somewhere. By telling other black people that all of your problems, all of your issues, and all your challenges in life are because of your skin color, black person, and because of the racism of everybody else, whether that's of people specifically, any individual person like a politician, whether it's because of a group of people like white people, or it's because of a system like systemic racism. You heard that phrase? Everybody was throwing that around a few years ago. All right. A race hustler's whole business is to basically indoctrinate you with these ideas over and over and over again. And they just find different ways to say the same thing. That's the job of the race hustler. So when you hear black people who are 47 years old right now, they only been alive since what? How old you have to be? You ain't been alive since the 70s, but they keep talking about slavery that they never experienced. They talk about oppression that they have never experienced. They talk about cops hurting innocent black people. You hear people throwing these things around. I heard Uncle Luke on Twitter /X. He put a video out. I don't know if he did this last night or early this morning, whatever. And he's on there sounding stupid, repeating a whole bunch of debunked hoaxes and basically things that people have already know are not true. A bunch of logical fallacies about, he's basically working for the Harris campaign. Y'all don't know. Uncle Luke's working for the Harris campaign, unfortunately, but I guess it's good for him because he's getting paid for it. And working for the Harris campaign, he's like, well, this guy's going to give immunity to cops so they can kill innocent black people. All right, come on. That's race hustling. All right, just that point alone is race hustling. And this is what these people are doing. And just white people in general. Race hustlers just go attack white people in general. And there are some prominent race hustlers out there. Some of you may be familiar with Mr. Ibram X. Kendi. Ibram X. Kendi wrote a book called How to Be Anti-Racist. If you haven't read this book, you should read it. Even though I believe he's a race hustler, and I think that he is devoid of a ton of substance. You still read his book so you know what he's talking about, because that book was very influential. And a lot of people agreed with the stuff that he said in that book, even though it was nonsense. And there's another point that I want to make about the race hustlers. I'll say it right now since I'm thinking about it, is that these race hustlers, even though I disagree with them, vehemently disagree with a lot of what they do, I cannot say that these people are not smart, because they're smart enough to influence a whole lot of other people. And if someone's smart enough to influence people, then you can't call them stupid. All right, they had to be doing something that works. And smart and stupid are not based on your personal feelings about another person's intellectual ability. Is based on, is what they're doing actually achieving them their goal? Because if what they're doing is achieving them their goal, they got to be smart somehow. All right, somehow, some way is working. So Ibram X. Kendi is an example of a race hustler who built a career off of it. He wrote a book called How to Be Anti-Racist. He's written several other books. He's probably got close to 10 books. And Mr. Kendi, he has me blocked on X. I don't know why, because I've never talked to this guy, never met him, never said anything to him, but somehow, some way he got me blocked. It's probably because he saw I did a 4-part series about race hustlers, not race hustlers, about his book specifically, because his book was so ridiculous that I did a 4-part series breaking down what I read. And I had to read his book twice to make sure that what he said was what he had actually said. And he has me blocked. I don't know how, when this happened. But anyway, I believe he's one of the best race hustlers. Probably in the world that we have today, he might be the most prominent race hustler we have. And when I say the most prominent, I don't mean that he's what would I say if I call him the most prominent? I say he's the most effective. And most effective meaning his message is reaching the most people and having the most impact. Because this guy does consulting gigs, he does speaking gigs. He's got a whole framework for how his race hustling works. He doesn't call it race hustling, of course. He calls it anti-racism. And he has other people working for him. He had a whole center at, I believe it's Boston University he was working at. Maybe he still works there. And he created this whole center. I think they called it the Center for Anti-Racism. I think that's what it was called. Any of you know can fact check me on that. I think it's called the Center for Anti-Racism. And in the summer of 2020, y'all remember summer 2020 when George Floyd and all that stuff happened? These guys at that Center of Anti-Racism took in tens of millions of dollars in donations. The guy who used to own Twitter, his name is Jack Dorsey. He doesn't own it anymore because we know Elon Musk bought it from him. But the guy who used to own Twitter donated $10 million to Ibram X. Kendi's program in the summer of 2020. Do you want to talk about successful racism? Or race hustling, excuse me. That is very successful race hustling. You get someone to give you $10 million, you are a success. You are a success at your business. All right, whether you like it or not, that person is successful. Ibram X. Kendi is one. There are some white race hustlers. There's a woman named Robin DiAngelo. She wrote a book called White Fragility. Some of you may be familiar with this. And again, you should read this. You should read these books. Even though I'm telling you that the conclusions that these people come to, I don't agree with it. I don't want to tell you too much about the book because I don't want you to read the book with a tainted view. Go get the book and read it yourself. Read Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Read Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, and draw your own conclusions. But Robin DiAngelo, I'm bringing her up because she's an example of a white race hustler. She's actually white, and she wrote a book preaching to white people about how racist they are inherently and teaching them how to undo their own racism that they didn't even know that they had. Y'all didn't know about this? Robin DiAngelo is a race hustler. Y'all got to figure her. Y'all got to go read her stuff and think about her. Somebody in the comments, Kylie said Matt Walsh. No, Matt Walsh is the exact opposite. I think you're saying that, Kylie. I think that's what you're saying. So Matt Walsh, by the way, he did a whole documentary. I haven't seen it yet. I gotta see his documentary. I'll get it. I'll watch it online. I'm not going to a movie theater. And his documentary is called Am I Racist? And what he did in there is he basically hoodwinked Robin DiAngelo into an interview. And I saw the little clips, and she feigned incredulity after it came out that she had been tricked. But guess what? She had a $15,000 fee in order to do the consultation, and she took that money. She took that money. Robin DiAngelo, race hustler. The fact that she got that $15K fee just to sit down with Matt Walsh and claiming that she didn't know what was happening. All right, the fact that she took the $15K, it makes her a successful race hustler because she can charge $15,000 and get it. That makes you a success in what you're doing business-wise. So anyway, I'm just giving you the background of what race hustlers are. Now, I want you to understand, race hustling is not new, everybody. Some of you may think race hustling is new. because maybe you are just now hearing people use these phrases. Maybe you heard about Matt Walsh's documentary, and that doc just came out like a month ago. Maybe you're just now hearing me talk about it, and we're talking about it right now, and it's 2024. I want you to understand race hustling is not new. Ibram X. Kendi wrote his anti-racism book probably in like, I remember my book, I was doing a book signing at a bookstore down here in Miami called Books and Books. And I remember Ibram X. Kendi's book was on the shelf then, and this was in 2019. So his book came out before the George Floyd thing happened, but it blew up after it happened. And if you know anything about the publishing industry, you start writing a book like 2 years before it actually comes out. So he just had excellent timing and excellent luck. But that book was already out. And I remember seeing it on the shelf, and I said, that's an interesting title. And I took note of it because I wasn't going to buy the book in the bookstore. I bought it. I read I listened to the audio version of the book. But the book was already out, but he was already out. He was already out doing things that he hadn't blown up quite. He was known, but he hadn't blown up until the summer of 2020. And the summer of 2020 was 4 years ago. Rob DeAngelo's book came out probably around that same time, maybe shortly after. But race hustling is a decades old thing. So any of you who think it just came out, it did not just come out. You just found out about it, but it didn't just start. And by the way, I'm going to answer all questions in the at the end, by the way, too. Everybody knows who Jesse Jackson is, right? Y'all know who Al Sharpton is, right? Okay. These guys are the godfathers of race hustling, modern race hustling, let's say. There were race hustlers way back, like people who I might not even know about way back, like decades before I was even born. I was born in the 80s. But Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton have been race hustling since before I was alive, and they're still alive to this day, still race hustling to this day. They're kind of like the overseers of race hustling now. They're not actively doing it as much as they used to, but they're still out there. Where did I see Al Sharpton? I saw Al Sharpton somewhere the other day. I can't remember what he was doing. What was Al Sharpton doing in the news? Some of y'all might have seen it. He was doing something. He's still active. Al Sharpton used to be really fat, and now he's mad skinny. So shout out to him for losing weight. Hopefully it wasn't Ozempic. Hopefully he actually went to the gym. But Al Sharpton's lost some weight. Jesse Jackson, I think, is kind of pretty much out of the game. But Al Sharpton still gets out there. He still goes when some black person dies and a white person can be blamed. He still shows up at the funerals. This guy, Ben Crump, he was the lawyer for when George Floyd died in Minneapolis. Ben Crump was the lawyer for George Floyd's family. And he is an excellent race hustler, a lawyer, but an excellent race hustler because all he does is show up anywhere where a black person dies and you can blame white people and he shows up. When a black person dies, you can blame black people. You never hear from Ben Crump. You only hear from Ben Crump when a white person is to blame. And therefore, there's going to be, I got a pause connection on Instagram. You only hear about Ben Crump or from Ben Crump when a black person dies and you can blame white people. And the white people who to be blamed are somebody from the state because the state has money. And therefore, Ben Crump files a lawsuit against the state. They get a settlement. The family gets a bunch of money and Ben Crump gets his money. That's the hustle. All right. So when I say race hustler, I want you to be very careful to understand. To be a race hustler, you have to be making money from what you're doing. You can't just be talking about race on Instagram and be popular. All right. That's cool if you're doing it. That's not race hustling. Race hustling is when you're making money from it. Okay. So the race hustlers, Ben Crump, I just explained to you his business model. I told you Robin DeAngelo's business model. I told you Ibram X. Kendi's business model. There's some other race hustlers out there who I might get around to saying their names here today. Maybe I won't, but I gave you a few just so y'all understand. Okay. So this is not new. All right. So back in the day, this is what race hustlers were doing. They were not, back in the day, these race hustlers, they usually would just talk to other black people and tell them how white people were to blame for their situation. Malcolm X, for example. Let's talk about Malcolm X. All right, all y'all know who he is, right? If you have not read Malcolm X's book, and by the way, if y'all are new to me, anytime you hear me mention a book or I mention somebody has written a book, go get the book and read the book. Thank you, Riri, for the roses. Appreciate it. Thank you for helping me reach my goal here. Malcolm X wrote a book called The Autobiography of Malcolm X. And those of you who don't know about that book, it was actually written by a guy named Alex Haley. And the way it was written was Malcolm would just sit with Alex Haley and talk, and Alex Haley would write down all the stuff Malcolm was saying, and he made it into a book. Even though it's called the autobiography, it wasn't actually written by Malcolm. It was spoken by Malcolm, and Alex wrote it all down. And then after Malcolm died, he finished the book. Alex Haley, that is. But in that book, Malcolm X goes on to explain, if you know anything about Malcolm X's story, there was a movie about Malcolm X directed by Spike Lee. Denzel Washington he played Malcolm in the movie. Y'all should go see that movie or go find it online, wherever you can find it these days. Malcolm X was not even a bit, but he actually was a race hustler for many years. Malcolm X was a race hustler. I'm not saying his whole career. Let me get everything I'm saying in context. Okay, so don't do the fine people hoax on me. All right. So he was a race hustler for the first part of his career because he would go around to black communities and he would tell black people that all of their problems were because of white people. And this is what he did. And he was a very good speaker. He was a very impactful speaker, and he was a very influential and persuasive speaker. He was similar to, take somebody like Barack Obama these days, and Barack has started to lose his fastball a little bit, but in his prime, Malcolm X was better than Obama in terms of influencing and persuading audiences. And he was race hustling. He was telling black people all your problems because of white people. Then what happened is, if you read the book, you know what happened. Malcolm X took a pilgrimage to Mecca. And when he went to Mecca, he met with all these other Muslims from all around the world. And what he came to realize, and I'm very much paraphrasing the story, read the book so you get the whole story. And what happened is when he took his pilgrimage to Mecca, he saw that there were a bunch of Muslims who were actually fair-skinned individuals. They were not brown-skinned. They were what most of us will call white. Most of you Americans who ain't never been anywhere, you would just call these people white. So he's meeting all these Muslims who are white, and he's black, and he had been in America, in Harlem, preaching to black people that white people are terrible and the devil and all these things. And when he got to Mecca and saw all these fair-skinned people who were of the same religion as he, and they were no brothers of his in religion, he realized, oh man, I've been preaching the wrong thing to my people back home. So then he got back home. He got back home to America, and he started telling black people, wait a minute, what I've been telling you is wrong. Y'all got to understand it in a different way. And he started telling them a little bit different message than what he had already told them. Now, here's the problem with that. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. And all of you who have a certain belief or opinion or perspective on anything, you should be willing to be flexible on that belief or opinion and be willing to change your mind pending new information, new experiences, and new perspectives. Malcolm X got some new information because he had a new experience. Therefore, he had a new perspective. He went back home and started telling people, hey, everybody, I've changed my mind on certain things, and here's why. And when he started trying to do that, he failed. Now, let me tell you why he failed. It's not because Malcolm X forgot how to speak. The reason that he failed is because his followers, who he had indoctrinated by telling them all this negative stuff about white people, they were not critical thinkers. Most people are not critical thinkers. Which means what? Which means if you get someone who's not a critical thinker to believe something, it will be impossible to get them to unbelieve it. Once they decided they believe it, they're not changing their minds. And Malcolm X, a critical thinker himself, wrongly assumed that his audience were critical thinkers. They were not. And what he had already taught them, they weren't changing their minds. So they saw him as a traitor when he started saying, well, the white man is not the devil. When he stopped saying that and he started telling people that's not the case, they got mad at him for telling them something opposite of what he had told them in the past. And long story short, they killed Malcolm X. Malcolm X got killed by his own people. He didn't get killed by white people. He got killed by black people. Why? Because he started going against the grain of what he had already told them. Now, of course, you call it conspiracy theories or rumors, or people say that the government was behind it, and that's possibly true. But the person who pulled the trigger was a black person. All right, that is not questionable. Now, who decided or told them to do it is a whole different story that you can get into. Anyway, I'm bringing all that up to help you understand that the race hustler used to only talk to black people. That's what the race hustlers used to do. Is black people talking to black people, telling them that white people are the cause of all the problems. These days, the race hustlers have diversified their audiences. And they diversify by, again, look at Mr. Ibram X. Kendi. Ibram X. Kendi does not go and talk to a bunch of black people about why the white man is terrible. He goes to white people and tells them how they're terrible. And the white people sit there and say, you know what, you're right. I am racist. You know what? I do need to give you money. You know what? I do need to be anti-racist. You know what? I do need to promote some black person to a job that they aren't qualified for just to make sure that we prove that we're not racist. This is the diversification of the race hustle. Nowadays, what race hustlers do is not just talk to black people, because what they realized was, like Malcolm X. See, Malcolm X didn't get rich from talking to black people. Malcolm X didn't get rich, period. And one of the reasons he didn't get rich because he was only selling his stuff to black people. The modern day race hustler, this started with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Then it went to the other race hustlers like Ibram X. Kendi, and I guess you could say Robin DiAngelo, but she's white, so she doesn't really count. Let's just use Ibram X. Kendi. They realized, oh, wait a minute. Not only can I become known and influential by preaching to black people about how white people are terrible, I can make a whole lot of money, because you could be influential and not make a lot of money. I can make a whole lot of money by now talking to white people about how they are racist, and white people will actually listen to this shit. And this is the new breakthrough in race hustling, is that now the race hustlers go talk to white people about about them being racist, and there are white people who actually agree with them. Some of you listen to this, I might be talking about you. That you sit there, and I have friends. I'm not going to say their names. I'm not even going to say where they work because I can't out them. But I have friends who they work in employee situations. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner, but I have friends who work as employees. They work at companies, bureaucracies, organizations such as universities, corporations, and government, and specifically universities and corporations. And they will tell me, because they hear me talking about this stuff, and I'll be talking to them in private conversation. And they'll say, Dre, I had to go to a meeting at work, and this person who was a diversity officer or anti-racism consultant had to come in and give a speech to us, and we had to be there, and I had to sit there and listen to this shit. And they're preaching to us about how white people are racist. And some of these people who are talking to me, they're white and some of them are black, but they're laughing with me about it because they heard me talk about this and they're like, it's ridiculous, but I got to sit there and listen to it because I work here and I got to go to the meeting. How many of you have been subject to this? Any of you have been subject to a anti-racism / diversity, whatever, consultant from outside of your organization come there and preach to you about this stuff, and you had to be at the meeting and you had to sit there and listen, and you might have even been forced to participate? This is what the breakthrough has happened. This is the breakthrough that's happened in Race Hustle. Now we can go preach to white people, and not only can I be influential, but also these very white people will pay me a whole bunch of money to preach to them and tell them what to do and basically affirm their own racism after I explain to them that they're racist and they didn't even know that they were racist. This is an amazing breakthrough. So when you hear me talking about race hustling, y'all may think I'm being facetious, but this is actually a beautiful business model. I wouldn't do it, but I'm kind of hating a little bit because it's a great idea. I would not do this because it goes against my principles, but I have to admit it's a great idea. Like, you can dislike something and still admit that's a hell of an idea. That's a great idea, what they're doing. It's like, I wouldn't do OnlyFans, but I can't say that doing OnlyFans is bad business. It's great business, all right? Because a girl, OnlyFans and make more money in a month than a school teacher can make in a year. All right, we can't hate on that. You might not like it. You might not do it. You might tell you might not want your wife or your girlfriend or your daughter or your sister to do it, but you can't be mad at the fact that they are making money. All right, sometimes we got to game recognizes game. All right, this is a beautiful business model that these people have come up with. So now they're going to schools. Now they got their books as part of the academic curriculum. Now they're going to businesses. Now they're giving events and speeches. And again, they got white people buying into this stuff. All right, the entire diversity, equity, and inclusion industry exists because of the work of race hustlers. And diversity, equity, and inclusion is a business, is not just a saying. That is a business, and it is an active business, and it was thriving really, really strong for a couple of years around 2020. It's starting to die down a little bit now. Many companies are distancing themselves from the whole DEI thing, but did that DEI thing make a whole bunch of money for a whole bunch of people for a nice little period of time? Yes, it did. We can't deny that. Again, you don't have to agree with it, but you can't deny that it happened. All right. You can disagree with something and still recognize, like, damn, that worked. DEI worked. Race hustling works very well. So let's move on to point number 2. And I'm going to take questions and comments at the end. So if you have a question or comment, I will address it at the end. Number 2, the success of the race hustle. I just kind of touched on this. Race hustlers eat well today because, again, they got white people to listen. Malcolm X was just talking to black people. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton realized, okay, the money is in preaching to white people. See, we preach to black people, we'll have fans. But I got a pause connection on Instagram. See, they realize that if we preach to black people, we'll have fans. If we preach to white people, we get paid. And again, what I tell you, to be a race hustler, you got to be making money. Now, you can't be a race hustler is not just posting content. You can post content, but you got to be there has to be some type of angle to make money from it in order to be a true race hustler. So the race hustlers realized we got to go to white people. So the death of George Floyd was the opening for them. When George Floyd died in Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, all of you remember that, wasn't that long ago. This is when race hustling went into full speed. This is when they put the pedal to the metal, as they say. They pressed the gas pedal to the floor, and they started going to white people who now felt, and I mean, this was just a perfect storm, what happened with George Floyd, because you got the officer kneeling on George Floyd's neck, back, side, shoulder blade, whatever conclusion you came to. Different conversation for a different day. But he's kneeling on him. And then you juxtapose that with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and not being in the NFL anymore. Again, whatever conclusion you came to on why that happened. But it was beautiful, poetic a poetic comparison between the two. This guy took a knee, he's out of NFL. This guy takes a knee and he kills a black guy, allegedly, or I mean, he was found guilty. Different conversation for a different day. And this is when the race hustler said, well, this is perfect. Now we can go to all these white people and tell them, look at this this emotional trigger. What have I told you all over the last week? When you get people emotional, the logic sensors of their brains are bypassed. People do not think logic when you get them emotional. So the reason why this was perfect on so many levels. First of all, Donald Trump was president, and everybody's preaching Donald Trump's racist, even though he'd been president for 4 years and he hadn't done anything racist the whole time. But people still believe Donald Trump's racist, right? Now this happens. White cop, black man, victim, kneeling on him. Colin Kaepernick kneeling. And they just went to white people and said, look at this white person. Look at this white person. Tell me how this isn't racism. Tell me how this isn't because of Donald Trump. Tell me how you're not inherently racist. Tell me how you as a white person can be okay with this. And white people with no recourse to what was being presented to them because it struck them emotionally. I'm not saying every white person. A bunch of white people who are listening to this right now, you get the game that was being played. And you also understand, if you're a white person listening to me right now, you understand that some other white people bought into this bullshit completely, even though you didn't buy into it. All right. So there are a bunch of white people who bought into this completely. And not only did they buy into it, I mean, they literally bought into it. They started hiring these people. They started buying the books. They started requiring their teams to read them. And they actually became allies and advocates of the race hustlers. White people did this. And again, I'm not saying all white people. I'm not going to say that every time I say white people. And I don't mean all black people every time I say black people, obviously. All right. So I hope all of you get the spirit of my point. And they started getting white people to buy into this. And after that George Floyd thing, I remember I was in a business mastermind group. I'll tell you this. I was in this business mastermind group and there was a girl in there. Her name, I'll tell you, her name was Jess. And there's a million girls named Jess. But I will say Jess was a white girl. And she was relatively young. Jess was probably maybe not even 30 years old. And one of the things that she said, and it was really funny because she had read the anti-racist book. I knew she did because she was using the term. She was like, you know, anytime and we were just talking about where we buy stuff from and what companies, what programs we'll join and things like that. And Jess said, this white girl, Jess, she said, anytime I decide to do business with any company, I want to look into who they are and find out what they're about. And I want to make sure that they are anti-racist before I decide to spend money with them. And she literally said that out of her mouth. And I said, wow, this shit is actually working. This race hustling thing is actually working. They didn't reach these suburban white people. This girl is white as a picket fence. And she had bought into this anti-racist nonsense. And again, I'm saying it, I'm being tongue in cheek, but that's a true story that really did happen. And I didn't agree with it, but at the same time, I had to tip my hat and say, damn, it worked. They started reaching these people, and they got these people indoctrinated, and they got these people buying into this nonsense. This was the success of the race hustle. Again, so I'm not a fan of race hustlers, but I cannot say that they are not doing good business. All right, they are. Okay, so the George Floyd thing amplified this whole thing and threw fire on this. All right, y'all remember the BLM protests / riots. All right, just like January 6th, there were some protesters and there were some rioters. All right, it was a combination of both. And the George Floyd's riots and protests, and notice nobody gave those a negative name, right? People just try to act like it was just a protest or it was just okay. Oh, it was okay. And at the same time, there was the virus going around, right? And weren't people supposed to not be gathering during that time? Oh, but it's okay for them to gather. The virus is going to just take the day off because these people are so emotionally upset that that's not going to spread anything because everybody's so emotionally upset that the virus is just going to go on vacation today while these people go out and protest. But if anybody else gathers, then you're bad and they need to call the cops on you. Made perfect sense. That one, I'm being completely sarcastic. All right, so this is what happened, right? So all of these things that happened with the George Floyd, with the Breonna Taylor that happened that same year, and then people harken back to the Trayvon from several years earlier. All of those have counter stories to the ones that you heard from the news, by the way. If you don't know, you need to go look into them because all of them have counter stories via books, documentaries, investigative journalism. If you don't know, go look into those things. I will give you references, by the way, any of you want them. I'll leave it in the comments if you want me to. So the result of all of this was white guilt. That's what happened. The summer of 2020 turned up the fire on white guilt. Because see, race hustlers always existed. Malcolm X existed. White people, for the most part, could just ignore him. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, we used to make jokes about them. Jesse Jackson, Al, even black people rolled their eyes when those guys showed up because we knew what their whole game was. But the summer of 2020, it flipped things. It turned things around. And I continue to refer to that summer as the summer of social justice, because that's what I remember it as. That was the summer of social justice. Anyone who was involved in social justice or decided to get involved in social justice in the summer of 2020, there was money to be made. I did a whole episode on my show. Let me tell you what episode that was. And by the way, I got a show that comes out every day called Work on Your Game on Apple, Spotify, etc. I got to figure out what I titled that episode. I got so many episodes. I got to find what I called it. But how to take advantage of the social justice movement, episode number 1618. What Black people could do with the social justice movement. I told you what the opportunities were if you wanted to get involved in that game back in the summer of 2020, because there was a lot of money to be made. Again, I wouldn't do it, but I ain't knocking the people who made the money. I mean, business is business. If people want to pay you to do something, go ahead and do it. Now, people want to pay you to do OnlyFans, do OnlyFans. I ain't telling my daughter to do OnlyFans. I ain't telling my sister to do OnlyFans. But if you want to do it, I can't say it ain't no money to be made. All right. So again, you got to respect the game. Point number 3, and I'm gonna answer all questions at the end, by the way. Number 3, we're talking today about the race hustler: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Number 3, here's the issue with all of this stuff that I just explained. Even though I just gave the race hustler credit for what they did successfully and what they continue to do successfully, the issue with this is facts and truth. And I just told you yesterday that facts and truth are not the same thing. They aren't. That's why they're 2 different words. Okay. Facts can be handpicked and taken out of context. Truth means all the facts in full context. And the issue with the race hustler is that they are operating by neither one. Often not by facts and often not by truth. Race hustlers operate off of emotion. That's what they do. And here's the good news for the race hustlers: that people buy based on emotion and they justify based on logic. So you don't have to have facts in order to sell things. Should I say that again? Any of you who's in business, any of you who's in sales, you do not have to have facts on your side in order to successfully sell a product or a service. What you do need is to be able to trigger people emotionally. Now, that doesn't mean if you have facts on your side, you can't make sales. But if you want to move someone to action, you want to move any person to action quickly, then you need to trigger their emotions, or they need to have their emotions triggered already, one or the other. Ideally, you can do it for them, because that way you can kind of control the situation. And race hustlers use the summer of 2020 to trigger emotions and make sales on the back end of those emotions. And race hustlers, when you bring facts and truth into the conversation, race hustlers disappear like roaches when the lights come on. This is the reason why Ibram X. Kendi blocked me on X/Twitter, because I exposed all the bullshit in his book. And there's nothing he could say back to. He couldn't refute anything that I said, because everything I said, I gave his point. I explained what parts of his point I understood what he was saying, but then I explained why what he was saying was actual bullshit. And there's nothing he could say back to me, because I refuted his bullshit. And there's nothing he could say. That's why he disappeared. That's why he blocked me. Again, like roaches when the lights come on. And if you don't know what that's like, all right, take my word for it. All right, you turn the lights on and roaches disappear. All right, they like to operate in the darkness. This is what race hustlers do as well. When you call out a race hustler, for the most part, they can't push back on the fact that you point out their race hustling. I do it on X every day. I point out race hustlers. I even follow some of these race hustlers on social media. And X is the app where I will actually engage with people. So I don't follow people on most of these other apps, but over there, I will follow people, even those I think are race hustlers. I will follow them. And when I see them doing some race hustling, I will call them out on their race hustling. Now, I don't get personal with them and start attacking them personally. So most of them don't block me, but a few of them have blocked me. Nicole Hannah-Jones blocked me. She's a race hustler. Ibram X. Kendi, I told you, he blocked me. And then some other low-level race hustlers. I call them race hustlers in training. Several of them have blocked me, but they're not as prominent. They're not as known, but they're trying to be race hustlers. They blocked me because, what was that woman's name? Y'all watch The Breakfast Club? Y'all know The Breakfast Club on YouTube with Charlamagne and DJ Envy. What is that woman's name? Do y'all remember when the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, was on The Breakfast Club and they had that black woman on there? And she was basically there as the attack dog to basically attack everything that Eric Adams said and try to hold him accountable, quote unquote, with her quote unquote facts. Anyone know that woman's name? She is a race hustler. And she was on that day. So any of you who saw that video, when Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, was on The Breakfast Club, he was talking to, of course, Charlamagne and DJ Envy, but then they have this extra guest, which is usually a black female. And the black female often comes on there whenever they have a political person. And the black female's job, it seems, is to just trash whoever the guest is and just attack them with everything that they say. And they've done this several times. So when Vivek Ramaswamy was on The Breakfast Club, They had the woman's name is Charlamagne called her Tez. I don't know her full name or whatever her name is. Her name is Tez. Her job was to just attack Vivek. Everything Vivek said, she had some kind of combative clapback at everything that Vivek said. And he was going back and forth with her more than he was talking to the actual host. So they did it with her. They did it with that chick. Her name was Tez something with Vivek Ramaswamy. Then who was the guy that was just on there? It was 2 weeks ago. And the chick's name is Angela Rye. Who the hell was she talking to? I can't remember who was on there when it was Angela Rye. And she was going back and forth with somebody. If anybody saw that, please tell me who that was. So it was Angela Rye. She was the attack dog that day. And the guest was, what's the guy's name? Byron Donalds. I believe he's a congressperson from the state of Florida. And he's a Republican. So he's like MAGA, Trump side guy. So he was on, yes, Tesla. Oh, dog, you got it right. Yes, Angela Rye is absolutely a race hustler, oh, dog. And Angela Rye was on there, and she works for the Democrats. She's hard in the Democratic Party. Like, she works for them. She's not just repeating the talking point. She is on the payroll. And when Byron Donalds was on there, she was the attack dog. Every time he talked, she tried to throw up some quote-unquote fact at her. He was knocking down everything that she said. But I was like, why did they have her on the show? She's not even part of the show. They just brought her here just to be combative. I don't know why the Breakfast Club keeps doing this, but they did it with Angela Rye and Byron Donalds. Just yesterday, I was watching the interview where they had Lara Trump. Lara Trump is married to Eric Trump, who is Donald Trump's son. And she was on there because she has a role in the Trump campaign. She's like the head of the Trump campaign staff or something like that. And Lara Trump was on there. And they had some other woman on the Breakfast Club yesterday, another black female, again, third party attack dog. Her whole thing was just attacking everything that Lara Trump said. And again, Lara was knocking down all her nonsense. But they keep doing this. I don't know why they keep doing this. And I'm bringing all this up to say these race hustlers in the Breakfast Club, they keep employing these race hustlers to do what the host can't do. So Charlamagne can't do it. DJ Envy can't do it. So they go bring in some random black chick. It's always a black woman. I don't know why, but they keep picking a black woman to come do this race hustling thing to attack dog against whoever the guest is that they have on the show. When Candace Owens was on the Breakfast Club, they had a black woman do the same thing to her, try to make her look bad, and she was just knocking down their nonsense. When what's my man's name from California? Larry Elder was on the Breakfast Club. They did the same thing. They had a black woman on the side trashing everything that he said and trying to attack dog him. And he was just beating back everything that they said. And the Breakfast Club, I don't know why they keep doing this, but they do keep doing this. So this is a pattern with them. And I just gave you like 6 examples. They do it with every guest who is politically conservative. Any politically conservative guest who comes on their show, they always have an extra person. The Breakfast Club does. It's always a black female, and the black female always just gets attacked. Oh yeah, the woman I was asking about. Because somebody knows that woman's name. When dog, you might know over on YouTube. When Eric Adams was on the Breakfast Club, what's the name of that black chick they had on there who was attacking him? Because whoever she is, she's another person who blocked me on X. She blocked me because after that Eric Adams interview, which I listened to, she was on social media basically doing a victory lap because she was like, yeah, I told him and I called him out on the facts and all these things she was saying she did. And I was refuting the things she was saying. Like, no, you didn't. Like, what you said here was wrong. This is a logical fallacy. Here, you're just using an appeal to emotion. You did this, you did. And I was pointing out all the nonsense that she was saying. And she just blocked me because, again, if someone was to come to me, like, let's say anything that I say on here, if anything I say on here is wrong and I'm logically incorrect and you call me out, I'm not going to block you for calling me out for being logically incorrect. If you tell me how I was incorrect and you're correct that I was wrong, then I'll say, all right, you got me on that point. I'll give you that. But if I'm not, then I'll just push back and say, no, you're wrong because ABC. But with the race hustlers, whenever I call out the race hustlers and point out, yo, you're race hustling because ABC, one of 2 things happens. Either A, they ignore me and don't say anything, or actually 3 things. 3 things happen on social media, especially with people who are very well known and their platforms are like they got more followers than I got. So either A, they ignore me and say nothing. B, their fans, who are generally nobodies, they just come in and start attacking me and name calling and all that stuff, which is childish, but I don't need to respond to that. That's B, what happens, or C, they block me. Those are the 3 things that happen whenever I call out a race hustler. They either ignore their idiot fans come and attack me, or they block me. Those are the 3 things that happen. I've never had a race hustler who I called out for race hustling push back and tell me that I was wrong for pointing out their race hustling. Why? Because they know that they're race hustling. I've never had anybody do it. I never had anybody say, Dre, I'm not race hustling because ABC. That's never happened. The next time that happens will be the first time it's ever happened. So L Dog said they do it because the hosts need to appear neutral. Yeah, but we know they bring the person on. So I get what you're saying. You're right. But the whole point is they're bringing that person in specifically for that. Like Angela Rye wasn't on the show the day before, and she wasn't on the show the day after. So she just showed up this random day just to attack this one guy who happens to be Republican and she happens to be a Democrat. It's bullshit. And they're hurting their credibility. Well, whatever credibility they have. I don't look at the Breakfast Club as a place for thoughtful discussion. I look at it as entertainment. But it's useful material because it serves what I'm doing right here. So anyway, let's continue what I'm talking about here. So as I said, the race hustlers disappear when you call them out on their nonsense. And again, the facts and the truth just get quietly ignored. I just told you, they either ignore me, they block me, or their fans just come and attack and nobody says anything useful. And again, that's why I did a 4-part series on Ibram Kendi's book. If you haven't read Ibram Kendi's book, it's called How to Be an Anti-Racist. Again, read the book. I don't want to tell you too much more about the book. I did a 4-part series on what I disagreed with in the book, and he blocked me on social media. So since most people don't think and don't read beyond what they already believe, that satisfies them. So let's move on to point number 4. It's my last point. We're talking here today about the race hustler, who they are, what they do, why they do it, how they do it, and why it is successful. I want to be clear. I'm not mad at the race hustlers. I think I've made that clear so far. When I point out somebody as a race hustler, and I do this on X all the time, I point out people as race hustlers. There's a couple other guys, people on X who are race hustlers. Uncle Luke, the rapper, he's not a rapper anymore, but Uncle Luke is on there race hustling because he's getting paid by the Democratic Party right now, specifically the Kamala Harris campaign. And he's saying some stupid, so he sounded stupid. He sounded like what you would expect a rapper to sound like when they talk about anything other than rap music. That's how Luke is on there sounding stupid, race hustling. Roland Martin, race hustler, sounding stupid, works for the Democratic Party. Jemele Hill, race hustler. She's a little bit more intelligent and a little bit more eloquent in her verbiage, but she is a race hustler. She was in the sports world talking about basketball and football. She got out of there by posting a race hustling tweet by saying Donald Trump is a white supremacist, most impactful thing she's ever written because it helped her career and moved her into the race hustling lane. And now she's a race hustler who pretends like she's talking about intellectual things when she's really just sneaking into race hustling. That's her business. Because if she was really good at talking about sports, she would just stay at ESPN. But instead, she burned that bridge so she could go be a race hustler. She's a race hustler. Who's the other guy? This guy named Michael Harriet. I don't know exactly who he works for. I think it's a platform called The Grio. He writes these long threads. He's an active race hustler. And there's a whole bunch more race hustling. And there's people who dip and dive into race hustling. They kind of duck in every now and then they get out, then they duck in and they get out. So sometimes they say things I agree with, and then sometimes they race hustle. So Tariq Nasheed, sometimes he race hustles, and sometimes he says stuff that I'm like, you know what, that's a good point. Then other times he goes back to the race hustling. So he's like a part-time race hustler every now and then. And there's a bunch of others. I can't even think of all of them off the top of my head. If I can think of a couple others while I'm speaking, I'll say their names. And I follow a bunch of these people on social media. So I'm equal opportunity out here. I follow people who I generally disagree with because I want to see what they're doing. I want to see what they're saying. I want to see what they're up to. And it gives me material to talk about. So when I say race hustlers, folks, I'm not mad at these folks. I'm not antagonistic towards them. And again, I follow a bunch of them, and many of them have not blocked me, even though I will challenge their points because I don't get personal with them. I don't personally attack them. I'll attack their point, but I don't attack them personally. So they don't block me, most of them. So I actually admire the race hustler. I admire race hustlers. Why? Because they took a thing that was already existing and they figured out a way to make a business out of it. Again, that doesn't mean I would do it. It doesn't mean I'm telling you to do it. But it's like I could look at a drug dealer and say, well, I admire the way you built that business. I wouldn't get into your business. You're probably going to end up dead or in jail. But I can't knock the fact that you did actually create a business out of this and you got some money going. Again, not saying I want to do it. I got to keep saying that. So race hustlers have always existed. They will always exist. There will always be race hustlers. I think they're going to become even more prominent as we move forward because the United States of America is becoming more diverse in terms of color because we're allowing more people from other places to come into this country. So it's becoming more diverse and there's going to be more need for race hustlers. I think race hustlers are going to expand beyond Black people. I think we're going to get race hustlers from the Latin community. We're going to get race hustlers from the Asian community. We're going to get race hustlers from, I don't know what other communities there are. There's going to be more race hustlers. You might eventually even get a bunch of white race hustlers. They might be race hustling to help white people out. All right, maybe that'll happen too. I predict the white race hustler. All right, that's going to happen too. A white race hustler is going to tell white people how all these other people are messing it up for white people. I think that's going to happen. I guess there's already a word for that. I think people call them WS term that I'm not going to say. I got to be careful on TikTok, or those folks, maybe they call it that. But yeah, this is going to happen. There's going to be more race hustling. These are not going away. And just like the flu isn't going away, that virus that we had a couple of years ago might have just been the flu. Different conversation for a different day. And there will always be bad drivers. There will always be crooked politicians. There will always be scammy businesses. There will always be race hustlers. Race hustlers are like roaches. All right. They ain't going away. All right. They're like roaches. All right? You drop a nuclear bomb, the next day you come outside and you see roaches running around. All right. You can't kill them. So if the race hustler ropes you into their nonsense, from this point forward, I won't feel sorry for you. Okay, so this is the warning I'm giving to all of you. Any of you who gets roped into anything that a race hustler says or does, I will no longer feel sorry for you, because you have been warned as to the race hustler's hustle. You've been warned as to what their game is. You've been warned as to how they do it. You've been warned as to why they do it. You've been warned as to what it looks like and what it sounds like. I even gave you some examples of individual people who are race hustlers. All right, you have been warned. All right, I will not feel sorry for you if you fall victim to a race hustler moving forward. All right, so the word is out on these things. If you get caught up, that's not ignorance. Let's see, ignorance means to not know something. Stupidity is when you know something, but you do the wrong thing anyway. So at this point, any of you who's listening to me, if you fall victim to a race hustler, you're not ignorant, you're stupid, because you know better. Ignorance, I can forgive because you just don't know something. Stupidity, I cannot forgive because you know, and you did the wrong thing anyway. You get it? So if a 3-year-old kid wanders into traffic while cars are coming, that's ignorance. They just don't know any better. But if you're 30 and you wander into traffic when cars are coming, you're stupid because you know that the cars are coming and you know you're going to get hit and maybe killed by that car. All right, there's a difference. So when you pee in the bed, you got to sleep in the pee. All right, that's how it works. All that said, let me recap these points and I'm going to take questions. You got a question or a comment, put it in the comment section right now and I'll address it. So we're talking about the race hustler, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And number one, who is a race hustler? In simple terms, a race hustler is generally a black person who preaches to other black people about why all the problems that black people have are because of white people and white structures and white systems. That's generally what the race hustler does. But the race hustler has, moving on to point number two, race hustlers have moved on. They have diversified from just talking to other black people, and they got smart and said, why don't we start preaching this stuff to white people? All right, let's preach to white people, because the white people, not only can we get them to feel guilty instead of just angry, black people got angry, we can make white people feel guilty. Then these white people got access to some green money that can get us paid. So let's go preach to the white people. This is what the race hustlers do now. Now they preach to white people and they make money from it. Because see, to be a race hustler, you got to be making money. In the world that we live in today, you can't be race hustling for fun. All right, you got to race hustle for profit. All right, and now they're making money for it. The issue with race hustling is that when you present them with actual facts, or even better, the actual truth, race hustlers either ignore you, block you, or they allow their minions of fans to try to attack you personally for addressing their points logically. And that's usually what happens on social media when I call out a race hustler for their nonsense. And I gave you a bunch of examples. You want to see race hustling in action, go look on YouTube. Look up a TV show called The Breakfast Club, or the YouTube channel called The Breakfast Club, and look up their interviews whenever they have a conservative politician or political person on the show. So they had Candace Owens, they had Larry Elder, they had Laura Trump, they had Vivek Ramaswamy, they had Byron Donalds. Look up all of those interviews, and they had Eric Adams, who's actually a Democrat. I think he ran as a Democrat, but he got attacked by a race hustler. So this is what they do. Go look these people up, and you'll see. All these people are race hustlers. And O-Dog mentioned Joe Biden. Remember when Joe Biden was on the Breakfast Club in the summer of 2020 when he was running for president? He said, if you got to choose between me and Donald Trump, you're not black. All right, that was a race hustling comment, and Charlamagne didn't say anything. He sat there and laughed, and he just took it when Joe Biden said that, which was ridiculous. So again, any of you who falls victim to race hustling today is like falling victim to somebody selling you some crack. All right, it's 2024. You shouldn't be becoming a crackhead in 2024. We know better. All right, I can understand if it happened to you in 1984. I can't understand it happened to you in 2024. All right, you got enough information now. All that said, let me take questions and comments. You got one, put it in the comment section right now. Over on YouTube, Aswan, good morning, sir. Good to see you. Oh, dog, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Teslan Figueroa, is that her name? Teslan Figueroa, she was terrible. She was terrible in that interview. First of all, she said a whole bunch of stupid shit. Sometimes the attack dogs actually have a logical point. Like Angela Rye made a couple of logical points. The problem was because she works for the Democratic Party, she is handcuffed to saying their talking points. Tesla Figueroa, she sounded really dumb in that interview with when Vivek Ramaswamy was on. The stuff that she said was just, I was like, why did they have her on the show? She's bringing absolutely nothing to the table and sounding stupid. And she was sounding like she really was proud of the things that she was saying. It was made no sense. So O'Dog said the hosts need to appear neutral. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. But we know Charlamagne's not neutral. Charlamagne now claims he's an independent. Right? That's the new thing that not race hustlers, but people who are Democratic supporters, they call themselves independent to appear as if they're not working for the Democratic Party. Charlamagne knows better. Charlamagne interviewed Kamala Harris twice. All right, that's how you know he ain't Republican or he ain't conservative. Because if he was, there's no way Kamala would have sat down with him twice. No way. All right, name one. And Kamala's done what? Maybe one conservative interview in the whole time she's been around. Anyway, most of the rappers we grew up with are low-level race hustlers. Yeah, they're low-level because they don't have any intelligence. See, that's the reason why rappers can't really get in the games. They're not intelligent enough to offer anything thought-provoking. Odo, so your presence is antagonistic to the hustle because you're not emotional. Yeah, exactly. That's race hustling is based in emotions. That's exactly what it is. It says civil rights movement was a race hustle in hindsight. Yeah, on some levels it was. On some levels it was. I can't refute that. On some levels, it absolutely was a race hustle. Let's see what we got over on. I don't think anybody on LinkedIn wants to address this. Y'all at work. y'all want to get into this while you're at work. TikTok, I'm coming over there in 1 second. Let me see if I got anything on Instagram I need to address. I don't think so. All right, TikTok, what we got? Topic here today is the race hustler. Let's see what we got. Somebody said Errol Spence. I look better than Errol Spence. Shout out to Errol Spence, but I look better than him. Let's see. If you got a question or comment over here on IG, let's see. I mean, not IG, TikTok. Abu said, I would like to know your expertise. My expertise is taking subjects that could appear to be complex and breaking them down and making them simple and easy to understand. That's my main expertise. I have done that in different industries. Mindset, business, entrepreneurship, basketball, sports. I can take that same skill to any industry. So that's my expertise. Yaya said, Lord, help us. Tams said, oh, bummer. Did I say that or are you saying that? Albert says, people talking the truth is not what you believe is wrong. I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. Talk about history, tell the truth. I don't know what you're referring to. Kylie said, just watched it yesterday. Oh, you saw it? I got to see it. And Kylie said, yeah, almost everyone wanted money to sit down with him. Yeah, that's the hustle. The fact that they're getting paid, that's the hustle. Sunflower said Trump uses it. I don't know what you're referring to. Yes, Al Sharpton, definitely godfather of race hustling. Sunflower said Vance used it in his book. Is not decade. It's been used since slavery. I agree with you. You're right. Al Sharpton was trying to get Kamala to commit to reparations the other day. Oh, yeah, he was talking to Kamala. That's who he was talking to. And she ain't commit, did she? She didn't commit. He tried. He failed. He tried and he failed. Someone said Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton were race hustlers. Kwanzaa said, aren't you hustling right now? Who am I hustling? The question is, who am I hustling? See, to be a race hustler, you got to point out who's my target and who's paying me to talk about it. So if you can answer those two questions, then you can tell me if I'm race hustling. Who's my target and who's paying me to say this if I'm race hustling? If I wanted to be a race hustler, I could do it better than most of the active race hustlers out here today because I can be dispassionate and I can make my points logically. So better meaning on a logical level, but on an emotional level, they're better than me. It's you, not me. Said race hustling is all you're doing right now, but for white approval. Well, I just told you the definition of race hustling is you got to be getting paid. Who's paying me to say this? So if I'm doing it for white approval is not hustling. What's the hustle? Where's the money? Show me the money. If I'm race hustling, please show me the money that I made from race hustling. You can't. So you can't call me a race hustler. You can't show me the money. But for white approval, please. Is black people in here agreeing with me? If you're black and you agree with what I'm saying right now, put the word yes in the comments so we can see if it's you, not me, 23 is right or wrong. If you're a black person agreeing with what I'm saying right now, put yes in the comments. Otherwise, maybe it proves him right that only white people agree with me. I'm trying to get white approval. Kwanzaa said, it's standard that subjects dictate their auto bio to a co-author. It's not standard. I've written books about myself, and I didn't have a co-author. I wrote it myself. That's not standard. It happens. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's what he did. And a lot of authors do dictate their books and have other people write them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. These days, people are having their books written by artificial intelligence. So that's the game. Sharon Do Romero, appreciate it. Thank you. Sugar Rush, good morning. Mason said, Malcolm X also said the American white liberal is the most dangerous racist person there is. Yes, he did. He did say that. And those clips still go around on social media. Kwanzaa said, how are you going to help people understand, believe out who paid to kill Malcolm? Because there are conflicting reports on that. And that's not the topic here today. That's why. But people can go look into that and figure it out themselves. In Plain Sight said, you do realize people are still alive who remember what happened. Okay, well, tell us what happened in Plain Sight. What happened? Kwanzaa said that you conjecture that these authors' goal, thank you, Popular Thug, said, you conjecture that these authors' goal is influence and not education is telling on yourself. Well, it's both, actually. And most authors, and being that I am an author, you see my books behind me on the shelf, Kwanzaa, author's goal is to influence, because if you don't influence people, then they will never buy your book. You got to influence them to buy the book before you can educate them. You can't educate someone until they read your book. And most books that get purchased, this is statistically proven, most books that get purchased do not get read. Amazon's put out that data. Most books that get purchased are purchased as gifts, and most books that get purchased do not get read. So you can't educate somebody if they don't actually read the book that you sold them. I sell books. Most of the books that I sell to people, they don't actually read the book. Kwanzaa says, always a private conversation that can't be confirmed. Well, welcome to life. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Fartrell said, Trump ain't winning, buddy. This conversation is not about Trump. Kwanzaa said, what is wrong with being anti-racist? I did a 4-part series on what's wrong with it. If you would like to hear it, let me tell you what episode it is. Kwanzaa, let me see. Kwanzaa on TikTok, I'm gonna tell you what episode in which I talked about it. So if you really are asking, if you're seriously asking that question, go to YouTube and look up Dre Baldwin and the word anti-racism. I did a 4-part series on YouTube explaining what was wrong with his entire concept of anti-racism. If you really want to know, I don't think you really want to know. Now, you just said something about influencing and educating. I'll give you 2 hours of education on what was wrong with that concept or what is wrong with it. I don't think you're seriously asking. But if you are, go to YouTube and watch it. And you leave comments on the videos and let me know what I got wrong if you disagree with me. Not TikTok comments, leave comments on those videos so I know that you actually watched it. And just point out, just give me timestamps. Anything you disagree with, put a timestamp on what I said and why it was wrong, and then tell me what you think. And put comments on YouTube, and I will respond to your comments on YouTube. So let's see if you're real or not. I'm skeptical, but prove me wrong. Riri said, yes, exactly. Sunflower said, we are closer to one. Race baiters want to turn that around. Yeah, well, we'll see. We will see. Sharon said, you are speaking facts. Thank you. Riri, appreciate you. Thousands Lori said, we are all God chosen, not right to judge people by skin color like some do. Yes, I agree with that. The issue is most people don't want to think on that level. I agree with what you're saying, but most people don't think like that. Riri, appreciate you. I love you. He is a real race baiter. He says, we got to go to white people. Yes. Let's see. Joey said that was worldwide. Yes. I don't know what you're referring to. Probably was worldwide, whatever I said, but I usually talk about America because that's where I live. I usually refer to America because that's what I know best. But yes, many of the things I talk about in America happen in other places as well, but I'm limiting myself to United States. That's the topic I know the best. Someone said Trump is a race baiter, not racist. Big difference. Yes, there is a difference between those two. Is it Trump a race baiter? Yes, that's fair. That's fair. We can call him a race baiter. Someone said you don't have any real family or friends that loved you. I don't know what that comment is referring to. Riri said, you've spoken more truth here than I've heard in months. Well, good. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm in the game. That's my purpose here. Thank you for calling all this out. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. So I got people saying Trump 2024. I got people saying Kamala 2024. We'll see. What I think is you should vote. The most important person you got to vote for is yourself, ladies and gentlemen, because no matter which one wins, they got to remember that the government's $35 trillion in debt. It can't actually do anything for you. Everybody remember that. If Trump wins, the government's still in debt. And if Kamala wins, the government's still in debt. They have no money. They can't give you anything. Figure said, why does this guy spend so much time on TikTok? Funny how he's trying to educate people of color. I'm on here because people are paying attention. According to TikTok, let's see. According to TikTok stats, 1.8 thousand people have listened to what I'm saying here today. So I think that's a good reason to spend some time on TikTok. I lost my spot here by scrolling. I'm scrolling through and looking at you all's comments here. Hopefully I can get to all, and I think I lost my spot, but I'm trying to find it. Where was I? All right, it's right here. No, it's not right there. Yeah, right here. All right. So words are powerful. Linda Culpepper, you are 100% correct. Yes, they are. Words are extremely powerful. Let's see. Candace Owens, race baiter. No, she talks about race. I will say that. I don't know if she's baiting, but she talks about race. For the most part, she makes her points solid. Whether you agree or not, I think her points are solid. Ronald said, you are entertaining. Thank you. I think I am entertaining. Willie Saturday said, it's rare to see a MAGA who is literate. Even Trump does not read. Are you talking about me? I'm not MAGA. And Trump has written like 8 books. I would think that he does read. And stories I've heard about people who have engaged with him is that he absolutely does read. I haven't sat and actually watched him read a book, but I believe that he does read. And again, he's written about 8 books. I don't know people who write books who haven't read any. That's kind of hard to do. Not impossible, but hard. Top Gun said, I counted 22 times he said the word hustler. Yeah, the whole topic is about race hustler. Let me say it a couple more times. Race hustler, race hustler, race hustler. So then now you got 25. Do you think we don't need to address racism? It's not about not needing to address racism. The thing is, racism will always exist because racism is not a crime. So it's not something to be eradicated because it's not a crime. People are allowed to be racist. People are allowed to be hateful. People are allowed to be misogynistic. People are allowed to be xenophobic. Those things are all protected by the First Amendment. You can be any of those things that you want to be. There's no crime in doing those things. Someone said, you're supporting Trump for everything that has happened. That's a straw man question. I haven't said anything about supporting any political candidate. And I just said a few minutes ago, vote for yourself. I did a whole live on it last week. So if you didn't see that, go watch it. Someone said, we need not diversity to be one nation. I don't know exactly what you mean with that. As long as my coach is running the country, that's true. Who's your coach? Social justice warriors. Yeah, we got a lot of them too. Someone said Trump University graduate. LOL. Trump University. Someone said you're a Trump supporter. No, I'm not. Where's your proof? I did a live 2 weeks ago or last week. I did a whole 2 hours on why Kamala was going to win, and then I did another live on why Trump's going to win. So I'm not a supporter of either one. I'm a supporter of myself. And I did another live that said vote for yourself. I literally said who to vote for and said yourself. So how is anyone asserting I'm a Trump supporter? Where are you getting that from? Where is your evidence? Someone said they all exposed the Breakfast Club. Yeah, they did, because they brought these attack dogs on there every time. So what about Hillary going to the Breakfast Club with hot sauce? See, they didn't bring an attack dog for Hillary. That's the issue. Tanya said, why are you so passionate about this topic? That's a straw man question. Who said I was passionate about the topic? I'm just talking about it. I talk this much every day on a different topic. So why am I passionate about this one, but not passionate about all the other topics? I have, just to help all you out, based on, as of yesterday, all my recordings, 3,133 episodes of my show called Work on Your Game. So if you're saying that I'm passionate about this topic, am I also passionate about the other 3,000 topics that I've recorded on? I've been publishing content for 20 years, literally 20 years. I'm never washed, but I'm not new. So, and why am I passionate about this topic, but not all the other topics I've talked about every single day for the last 20 years? So that's a non sequitur is your question. It's a straw man question. Nice try, though. I appreciate the attempt. Someone said, what do I think about the Republican Party playing Dixie for Tim Scott? I didn't see that. And assuming that you're telling the truth, Etsy, who cares? So let's say that happened. So why does it matter? That's my response. So Kelly said, wow. I don't know what you're saying wow to. I don't know if that's positive or negative. Let's say somebody asked, am I voting Trump? I'm voting for myself. Like, people keep asking me these questions about Trump. And why nobody asking me any questions about Kamala? Why is every question about Trump? I did a whole live last week telling you who to vote for in the 2024 election. If you didn't see it, you can probably still catch it on whatever app you are looking at me on right now. I did an entire live telling you who to vote for. I literally said who to vote for. Y'all can go and watch it, and I literally tell you who to vote for, and I explain why. Okay, so when you go watch that, you'll understand it. And again, I have nothing to chance there, so that nobody can act like they don't know what I said. Kelly said, how does your family feel about your beliefs? Well, Kelly, first of all, what are my beliefs? What belief are you referring to? Because I'm not sure I told you any beliefs here today. I really just laid out who the race hustlers are. That's really what I was talking about. It's more on a logical level than a belief level. There are different levels of things. So Ponder said, well, dementia, Donnie, debate Kamala in October. Well, October's almost over, so I would say probably not. I don't think there'll be any more debates. Someone said, love your content, very educational. Irma. Thank you, Irma. Etsy said, why do you think Trump is done something for you? You're the race hustler. When did I say Trump has done anything for me? I just said, Etsy, you're not listening. I just said Donald Trump, if he wins, the government is $35 trillion in debt. If Kamala wins, the government is $35 trillion in debt. The government is not here to save or help any of you or us, period. The government cannot do anything for you because it's broke. It's actually in debt. It's not broke, it's in debt. Broke means you're at zero. The government's in debt. They're negative. What's the government going to do for you? Popular Thunder, what's going on? Oh, I said Popular Thug, Popular Thunder. Someone said, you support Trump, nobody believes you. Okay, fair enough. If you believe that, then you go ahead and believe it. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. Cherry said, what is your point and what do you call yourself? You are exactly what you are criticizing others. My point is about the race hustler. Have you been listening to anything that I've been saying here? I don't think so. Fui said, where can I get my suits? I'm a college student and want to up my business drip. Anywhere to sell suits. What you mean? You can start out by going to you go to a department store. I don't know where you live. What's the department store? Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, Macy's, any department store. Kelly said the hustle is the marketing opportunity. Well, yeah, the hustle is if it's money being made, you're hustling. And the race hustler is making money. That's what made the race hustler more popular. It's the reason why I'm talking about it. Etsy, you gotta stop posting the same comment. I might have to block you. You keep posting the same comment. All right, you posted the same comment like 8 times. I gotta block you. I'm sorry, Etsy. I don't have a problem engaging with you, but you posted the same comment like 30 times. Now you gotta get blocked. All right, so No Me Start says, I need to know. And by the way, any of you got a question or comment that you're challenging something that I say? I have no problem with you challenging something that I say. You don't have to agree with me, but don't spam my comments. Like this guy Etsy posted the exact same comment like 10 times straight. You got to get blocked for that. You do that, I got to block you. All right, so I didn't do that because I have a problem with his question. I did it because he spammed my comments. Don't spam my comments. No Me Start says, I need to know why you're supporting Trump. Like how? When did I say that I was supporting Trump? I haven't said that once. That's a straw man question. If y'all don't know what a straw man question is when you ask someone a question that presupposes something about them that they never even said and that you have no proof of. That's a straw man question. I'm not addressing straw man questions. I got to come with more logic than this. Good morning, Go Yo Gots. Good to see you here. Thousands of Glory said we are all God creation. I agree. Stanley said Trump's coming to Allentown, PA. Are you going to the event? They're fighting hard in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is like as they call it, a battleground state. So Pennsylvania has, I believe, 21 electoral votes. So that's a big state. Big meaning big in terms of the outcome. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, it's pretty much over for Kamala. If Kamala wins Pennsylvania, Trump still has a chance. But if Trump wins Pennsylvania, Kamala can't win. So Pennsylvania is huge. Someone said, would I debate Roland Martin and Al Sharpton with your information? Would I debate them? Probably not. You know what I mean? And that's a good question. Let me tell you why. I wouldn't debate Roland Martin or Al Sharpton. The reason I wouldn't debate them because the debates that we see on the internet these days is not really about the points. The debates these days are about who can just land the slam dunk, the verbal jab or the verbal knockout punch, and then take the little clip from the one point that they made and the other person didn't respond, and they put it on the internet like, Roland got him with this point, or this guy got that. And there'll be like a little 2-second clip or a 22-minute clip or a 30-second clip. And it's not really about the information at that point. It's really just about who can be more verbally dexterous. That's really what the debates are these days. Y'all see those debates where it's like they had one with Charlie Kirk and they did another one with Ben Shapiro, where one person, and they did it with another one with some white guy who I don't even know who he is. And they'll sit down in the chair and there'll be like 30 people sitting around them in a circle. And then each person will just get up to the chair and they'll just debate them for 2 minutes. And then they take the whole thing, they put it on YouTube, and then people cut up the clips and put them on TikTok and put them on Instagram and put them on X. And they're like, look at this person got cooked and this, they did this and they did this. Is that really about the information? No, it's just about entertainment. It's just about who can land the verbal knockout punch faster than the other person. Is anybody actually learning anything from those debates? No. So the point of debate these days is not about anyone learning anything. It's just about who can verbally spar better than the other person. And it's not about education or information. So to answer your question, I would not get into that because there are people out there who are like Ben Shapiro is really good at that kind of stuff. Roland Martin is okay. He ain't really that good. Candace Owens, really good at that stuff. Who's someone else who's really good at that kind of verbal back and forth sparring? Most people who are in politics, you have to be good at that because you can't succeed in politics unless you get good at that. If you're not good at that, you can't win in politics. Donald Trump, very good at it. So some people are really, really good at that stuff. I think I'm good, but I ain't great. And some of these people are great. Roland Martin's not great. Al Sharpton is old. So Al Sharpton wouldn't be a fair fight. But some of these other people who do it all the time, all day, every day, they're like professionals at this shit. So no, I wouldn't get into that realm because I wouldn't be a professional. And anyway, nobody's going to learn anything. The whole point is just to try to make the other person look bad and then take the little clip where you made them look bad and then you put it on the internet and declare yourself the winner. That's all that is. Y'all use social media. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Riri said, didn't know you had a YouTube channel. Just subscribe. Yes, I got a YouTube channel. And yes, you should subscribe. Thank you, Riri. Riri got the #1 badge right now today. So shout out to you. Yes, I'm on YouTube, by the way. And just look up my name on YouTube. And I got a lot of content on YouTube, 20 years worth of content on YouTube, longer than TikTok. Let's see. J Dubs, Popular Thunder said 2 birds of the same wings. Yes. And all right, we almost done with these comments. I thought I was almost done. All right, you're almost done. No matter. So if you got a comment, go ahead and put it in the comment section. I'll address a few more and then we'll wrap this up. No matter who wins, they have underground bases and cities. Right. Thousands glory. Yeah, said Kamala will bring in CBDC. What does that mean? What's CBDC? Our word should not be divided by color. It's not what God wants. Well, you're right. But human beings are flawed. That's how we got here. So you're right. L Wooden 361. Good morning. Thank you, Riri. So you have a beautiful mind. Kyle said, do you seem to get more hate from Democrats? I don't call any of this hate. I don't call comments on the internet. I don't consider it to be hate. People will say anything on the internet. I don't consider it hating, or some people call it disrespect. You can't disrespect somebody who you don't know. And a comment on the internet is not hate. It's just people talking shit. That's all it is. Again, I'm dispassionate about this stuff, so I don't take it on any emotional level. But as far as, let's say, negative commentary, Kyle, who's asking this question, do I get more from the left than the right? Absolutely. And the reason why, I believe, is because many Black people have been indoctrinated to support the Democratic Party their entire lives. Like my parents were indoctrinated to support the Democrats. And then they taught it to their kids and they teach it to their kids. So that's a thing. So if I was to say anything positive about the right, conservatives, MAGA, Trump, then I get more negativity from the left. Then if I flip it around and say positive stuff about the left, yeah, some people on the right will challenge me, but they don't get angry. People on the left get angry if I say something positive about the right, but people on the right don't get angry if I say something positive about the left. So to answer your question, generally, yes, but I wouldn't call it hate. Riri says, funny how people insinuate things about you. People only hear what they want to hear. Yes, human nature. Yes. George says some people have Trump on the brain syndrome. They call it Trump derangement syndrome. That's an actual thing. TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. That's people have been saying that since like when he was first president. TDS is what they call it. So if you just say TDS, most of the time people know what you're talking about. Jay Ross says, so who are you voting for? Myself. I did a live for 2 hours last week telling you who to vote for. And you go watch it and hear me explain. Someone said, yes, debates are goated. That's all debates are about is, again, landing a nice punch on your opponent. It's not about information at all. Ashley said, appreciate your content. The country needs more logic. Good to see you, Ashley. And you're right. Country does need more logic. We're not going to get it, though, unfortunately. Most people are not interested in logic. Most people are interested in entertainment. Michael Eric Dyson, good point, honestly. He's another race hustler. Excellent race hustler. He's a race hustler, and I'm giving him props at the same time. He's an excellent race hustler, but a race hustler at the same time. Race hustler on a collegiate level. College professor race hustler. Book author race hustler. But very much a race hustler. Good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Honest Abe. Michael Eric Dyson, great example. So what's it called when one debater just continuously talks over the other? That's a form of debate, kind of. Again, you're trying to shut up your opponent. I don't know if there's a term for it. Over talking, I guess we can call it. So Jay Ross already answered that question, who I'm voting for. Chris said, for Kamala being an attorney, she does not speak well. Why? Well, she was a prosecutor, so she has all the state on her side. So a defense attorney, I believe, has to be better than a prosecutor, in my opinion. My opinion, if you're a defense, you got to be better than a prosecutor has to be. Because a prosecutor, you got all the state's resources on your side. When you're a defense attorney, is you against the entire state. And that's a hard battle. Johnny Cochran had to be amazing to get OJ off. You didn't have to be amazing to convict OJ. They still failed. I think the defense attorney has an uphill battle, even though technically the law is innocent until proven guilty. Someone said Trump or Kamala. I did a lot supporting each one, if you want to call support. I did one where I said Trump's going to win. I did one where I said Kamala's going to win. So make sense of that one. Who am I supporting? Someone said I was never taught how to vote. All right, well, let me teach you right now. Number 1, register to vote. Number 2, go to the polling place. And number 3, vote. There you go. Now you know how to vote. Kaysen said, I just don't understand how you can ignore all the comments and all of the racism. Comments by who? What comments? What are you referring to? Kaysen said all the misinformation. No such thing as misinformation. You're either telling the truth or you're lying. Kaysen said, whenever you debate somebody and you don't use facts, you use conspiracy theories. Well, if that's the case, then every single person in a debate is using the conspiracy theory, because nobody debates with just facts. Nobody does that. People debate with emotion and zingers and talking points because that's what wins debates. So, Kaysen, is a non sequitur what you just said. Because if you're trying to win a debate, you have to win over the audience. And you don't win over an audience with logic and facts. You win over an audience with entertainment, with talking points, and by giving them things that they remember. That's how you win over audiences. Audiences are just people. If you think you can win over people by just giving them logic, then explain to me why you never seen a line outside of a library. Library has all the logic in the world. You ever seen a line of people outside of a library? Never in your life have you, right? You ever seen a line outside of a concert or the movies? Okay, so explain to me that. Logic is not the thing that most people are looking for. I'm not saying logic doesn't matter, but most people are not interested in logic. Again, if they were, have you ever had to fight through a crowd to get into the library? All right, many of you ain't been in a library in a decade. They're there. All right, most of you couldn't even point out the library in your town. You know where the movie's at, though, don't you? Okay. So logic is not the bottom line, folks. I'm not saying logic doesn't matter, but it's not the bottom line. Most people are not interested in logic. Again, where are we at right now? Y'all ain't in the library. You on TikTok. You on Instagram. You on YouTube. All right, you ain't in the library. Let's keep it real. Let's be honest about this. Look in the mirror, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm talking about myself, too. Logic says Kamala doesn't know what's going on. LOL. Kaysen said, logic says Donald Trump be very bad for black people and anyone who is not white. That's not logic. That's emotion. Kaysen, that's not logic at all. Someone said, Nancy said, you're a Trump supporter. It's written all over you. MAGA can't hide anymore. All right, you say so, Nancy. Then you had to go explain the 3 lives that I did last week. Why Kamala's going to win. Then the next day I did why Trump's going to win. And the next day I did who to vote for. So you had to make sense of all 3 of those. That's 6 hours worth of content. And Bay West says your state has a page online that lays everything out. That's correct. So that person said they don't know how to vote. Yeah, look it up on your state. It tells you exactly what to do. Let's see. World Breaker, what's going on? Black Santa said, logic goes over the heads of many anyway. Exactly. That's right. Job said, Johnny Cochran didn't get OJ off. The jury found OJ innocent because of Rodney King. Johnny Cochran played a role. He played a huge role. I get what you're saying, that it was kind of payback. At the same time, Johnny Cochran had to help them out. Let's not act like that didn't happen. Johnny Cochran had to help them out. Let's see. Dem's been lying for 3.5 years. Well, they all lie. All politicians lie. Let's be clear about that. No, the Republicans don't tell the truth. The Democrats don't tell the truth. They all lie. They have to get celebs to bring in crowds. That's to tell you something. Well, that does tell us something, but they're all lying. Let's be clear. We're not pinning lying on any one political party. That would be disingenuous. They all lie. All right. So last question. Logic is known capitalism requires a low class, so we need to change what it means to be low class. Oh, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Ozo Maduka. This is the last comment I'm responsive. I did a live about probably 3 weeks ago where I told you why the middle class is going away. I want y'all to understand. This is the last thing I'll tell you. And again, you can go find a live where I already said this, folks, but understand something. The middle class will disappear in the future. And when I say the future, I'm not talking like 300 years from now. I'm talking while all of us are still alive, knock on wood, there will be no middle class. There's going to be poor people and there's going to be rich people. So go watch that live that I did where I said the middle class is disappearing. There will be poor people. There will be rich people. There will be no middle class people. And I explained this out, why that is. And I explained it all very logically. Yes, the globalist agenda, that's exactly what it is. There will be rich people and there will be poor people. There will be no middle class people. So any of you who considers yourself middle class right now, you need to make a decision to get rich. Why? Because there won't be a middle class. You won't have a choice. So if you don't make a choice will be made for you. And that usually means you get pushed down lower, law of entropy. So make the choice to get rich. Unlearn all the nonsense that you have heard and you've been taught by your parents, by your school teachers, and by the government that rich people are bad or negative or evil. And if you have that in your head, you need to undo that poor money mindset, because that mindset will make you poor. You will be poor if you're not rich. There will be no middle class. And I'm talking like while you're still alive. I'm not talking, again, some future George Jetson. I'm talking like this century. There will be no middle class. Okay, so y'all better wake up. Any of you who's thinking the middle class, there will be none. All right, government's broke. They can't give you anything. They can only take from you. And as costs go up, every time inflation happens, that's when the government prints money. They have to print money because they don't have any. And Kamala's going to give you $25,000. Where's that money coming from? The government ain't got any. They got to print it. That means costs go up. That means inflation goes up, which means the cost of your groceries and your gas and your insurance keeps going up, and you can't afford it. Eventually, you become poor. Or you're rich enough that it doesn't matter. One or the other. It will be black and white, binary, nothing in the middle. All right. That's a simplified form of what I explained for an hour and a half, like 3 weeks ago, why the middle class is going away. So anyway, everybody, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where I do all of my work, my coaching. You want to get access to our programs, our trainings. These trainings I've done, I got 20 years worth of these in the back end of our university. So if you like what you've heard here today, I do these things all the time. I've been doing this for years. It's not new. So if you just found out about me yesterday, this ain't new. I'm never washed, but I'm not new. I've been around for a long time. I got a lot of stuff, a lot of courses, a lot of trainings, everything from mindset to business to entrepreneurship to selling yourself to content creation to audience building to monetizing yourself, building a brand, and everything in between. Anything you hear me talk about here and you want to get in the game doing these things yourself when it comes to speaking, when it comes to TED Talks, when it comes to writing books, building audiences, coaching, selling high ticket things, selling low ticket things, got it all covered inside of Work on Your Game University. I do these lives every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So if you like this one, be here tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. What am I going to talk about? I don't know yet. TBD. Every day I decide what to talk about. To be determined. Be here tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern for our next one. And, oh, yeah, I'm on all the social medias. So if you are following me on any one of these, I'm on all the other ones. Right now I'm live in 7 places: YouTube, Rumble, X, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So I'm live in 7 different places right now. I'm looking at TikTok because that's where the most comments are, but I'm live in 7 different platforms all at the same time. So y'all can find me on any one that you like. If you use more than one platform, follow me on all of them because I post different stuff on all of them. Sometimes similar stuff, but sometimes different stuff. So follow me on whichever one you prefer. Work on Your Game University. If you want to reach me directly and work with me directly, that's the place where it goes down. And again, I'll be here. I will be live here again tomorrow at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Everybody got it? Everybody have a great day. We out of here. Work on your game.